My entire program is based on fundamentals, just like fundamentals in basketball, baseball, anything else. A coach coaches you through it. You're going to still run fundamental drills every time you go out, right? All right, so that's what this is based on. And I'm not going to spend as much time in the background. I'm going to run a live demonstration of the mapping. And then what we're going to do is we're going to try to find a lake that I've got maps on and look at something that you want to see on a lake that we didn't talk about. All right, we may not get that on film, but we're going to try to do a couple live so that you can see if you were going to do this, these are the exact steps that you would go through to do it. Okay? I don't want it to be a mystery box where I'm pushing special buttons and you get home and it don't work. We're going to do it live and in person, going to let you pick. All right? There he is. As a matter of fact, I believe you were one of the guys that asked me about someplace where you could get this after I did my talk. We got somebody filming it, and we are going to have it available now. Good afternoon, guys. My name is William Frazier. I am Lowrance Prostaff. I am not a technical guy. I can't tell you which buttons to push one way or the other. As a matter of fact, the best way I can explain to you what we're going to do here today is that right there, that flip phone is the limits of my technology. All right? But what I have found in getting out here and talking to guys is that there's tons and tons of people that got a $5,000 depth finder, but they don't know what they're looking at on that screen. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to step through a few things, and I'm going to talk to you about it and see if we can figure it out. And then what I'm going to do is my role as pro staff is in the CMAP version, where you can go out there, and if you know what you're looking on that screen, you know what you're trying to do in terms of catching a fish, then you can take a 1 or 2 button push on your depth finder. You can record your own maps of where these fish are, and you can start to learn and transfer that knowledge one way or the other to lake to lake to lake to help you catch more fish, because that's what I'm here for, period. It's not to try to help you push buttons, it's to help you catch more fish. That's what I do. It's the most important thing I can do. All right, get my PowerPoint open here. And what I'm going to talk about is what I do to do that, all right? It's not rocket science. One of the number one things that I hear all the time is, and I've been working with the Elite Series and Bassmasters. I'm North Carolina BAS's Conservation Director, meaning that I have a large agenda of things that I do with other conservation directors around the United States. But for the past several years, whenever you watch the Bassmasters Classic and they weigh those fish and those fish are just gone, they've dropped them through the podium. Somebody's under that stage catching those fish. That's been me. Ever since Shreveport, every single Bassmasters Classic, every single fish, approaching 20,000 pounds of fish moved and returned to the wild alive, okay? It's real important to me. Well, what that's done is that's given me a lot of access to these elite fishermen, all right? And you hear this all the time, that these guys are so good, they can pull up on a spot and they can look at it and they can tell you right then and there whether they're going to be able to catch fish or not. You heard that? All right? You want to see it? Here it is. It's as simple as you can possibly be. All right? You're going down the lake and you see this signature. That's happy fish. They're all flat. They're all spread out and just happy as clams. They're eating algae and whatever else they can come across. And that's all good. If they see that, they keep going. All right? This is unhappy fish. They're all balled up. And you can see on the outside right over there, there's some shadows. Well, those bait fish know they're there. But do they stop and fish here? That's a real question mark. Depends on which pro you're talking to. All right? And this is 83, 200 kilohertz stuff. This is a simple, it's not 3D, it's not side scan or anything else. Basic stuff. Least expensive, most simple depth finder in the world. This is what they're using, okay? This is the picture you want to see right here. If you see something that looks like diagonal cat scratches across that screen, that's feeding game fish. They're busting through that school. And if you're not catching them, one of two things is going on. Either you're not throwing the right lure or it's not the fish you're after, okay? It could be crappie, could be catfish, could be anything. But it's a school of fish and they're tearing that school of bait up, all right? That's the best it possibly gets. You hear all the time that they have a tendency to segregate into schooling fish. You'll have a school that's got 2-pound fish. You got a school that's got 6-pound fish. They don't school together. They may wander around together, but when they start feeding, they don't. Okay? It's kind of like Alabama's football team. The linemen probably get their lion's share of food and the little guys don't. All right? It's just how it works. All right? This is exactly what you're seeing here. They've split that school. And one group of fish is eating on it one side and the other's over here in the front of the line. As the thing begins to die down and the schooling activity and the frenzy begins to kind of die off, this is what it looks like. Now, this is interesting because what you got here is most of those bait fish have gone down, sat on the bottom. If you got stuff flying around your head trying to eat you, you're going to try to hide too. And as you see, we're in open water, so there's not a place for them to go. But they have gone to the bottom. Now, I know you've seen this. If you're out in open water and all of a sudden you see a few dead fish kind of floating up. What they've done is to keep from getting eaten, they've gotten down here and they've run out of oxygen because they're below the thermocline and they've probably suffocated themselves. But it does happen. So there's a lot of information you can glean out of a very simple screen. All right? It's not complicated stuff. You just got to know what you're looking at. Now, I assume most of the guys in here are bass guys. I'm a bass guy. Okay? And if I'm out there fishing, am I in 17.5 feet of open water? No. No. All right, but I've just shown you screens that I was in a boat with an elite fisherman when those screenshots were taken. They were given to me by that elite angler. All right? So somewhere I'm missing something. Or else he knows something about fishing open water fish I don't. There's your answer. After we got away, he went on off another direction. I came in behind him and I found a ledge. And there's those bait fish right there on that drop off. Yes, they had them out in open water and they were eating them up, but what they did was they backed them up against a ledge first. And I was like, wow, that's awesome information. Wonder if there's anything else I can get out of it. What you're seeing right there with that little nub on the edge of that ledge is a roadbed that ran right down that ledge. So not only was there a drop-off in a ledge, there was a roadbed on the drop-on ledge. You hear it all the time. Spot within a spot. There it is. Okay, now I've actually got the 455 on there too because I was surveying it for myself. But during the fishing part of what was going on, we're running with the simplest, easiest transducer there is. That's an 18-pound bag of fish in about 15 minutes. It doesn't get much simpler than that as long as you know what you're seeing up there. Okay, let's move on out. That's habitat science, and there's a lot of things that you can get out of that. As a professional person, I'm a chemist working in a utility, and I do environmental management. So there's a lot of things in the way of information that I have about water quality and things like that I can couple up with this. But some of the simplest stuff that ever happened was way back when Bassmasters and FLW and everybody else had a lot of the big names in the sport now that are probably beginning to age out, and they kept it real simple. 3 concepts: structure, depth, and cover. Okay? So I'm going to break them down. I'm going to go at it backwards. Cover. Basically, this is one of the most important fishery studies that was ever done. A bunch of fishery scientists got together and they took a pool and they filled it with water and they put bass in it, and the bass wandered around just willy-nilly. Okay? But on the right-hand side, they come in a little bit later, and they didn't do anything except for paint a black mark down the side. Nothing. That's not a physical feature. It's just a black mark. And look where the fish are. Here, they put a few rocks on the bottom. You can't tell the bass from the rocks. And there, they put a cover over the top of the rocks. And they don't go anywhere else in the pool. Okay? A bass is a fat cat. All right? They don't like to work real hard to eat. And if they can find a way to sit in what is their version of a lazy boy recliner and still reach the refrigerator, they're going to sit there. It's that simple. They don't want to be out in that open water. We all know that. But cover being that key. Doesn't matter what the other 2 features are, they're going to try to find some place where they can sit back and relax. Okay? Cover takes its form in a lot of ways. Don't lie to me. I know all of you got your trailers out and you're out there collecting Christmas trees. And that's great, all right? Make sure wherever you're at that it's legal, because there's a lot of places where you can't just go drop it in the water. They'll come get you, all right? But Christmas trees are a pretty good piece of structure, and I'll show you a picture a little bit later on of what a Christmas tree can do. But here's the thing. You put that Christmas tree in, you spent money on that cinder block concrete, whatever you've done with it. How long does that Christmas tree last down there in that lake? 2 years, max. Now you may get the trunk of the tree, but all those fronds and the whole bait fish and everything else, that's gone in 2 years, all right? So there are a lot of companies out there that have done a lot of different things to come up with artificial habitat, all right? Some are better than others. Depends on what you're trying to accomplish, depends on the depth of the water, all right? Things like this where you got a lot of small surfaces and all, they'll collect algae, the bait fish going on, that's great. It works fantastic. Mossback, I was just talking to a good friend of mine out in the lobby who had some shots that Randy Howell had given him off of Gunnersville. There's some mossbacks down there in the lake, and there's fish all over them. They're great, all right? They work fine. We're working on a project in the state of North Carolina where we're actually going in and we're putting in places and set it up like a golf course. You can pick up a brochure when you go to that lake. It tells you where these things are on the bottom, and there's a buoy there. They're numbered just like a golf course. You just hold number 1 to whatever, all right? But what we know about it is, from fishery science, is that, and you know this too, you pull up to a tree laid over on the bank, you're going to go for the first big intersection of limbs in the trunk, because that's where that biggest fish is going to be. Every fisherman that's worth his salt knows that. We've used the larger tubes for these spider blocks because that's a 4-inch tube. When you think about it, that's somewhere between about a 4 and a 5.5 pound bass. Okay? A spider block, some of those other things, they'll attract smaller fish and they'll attract larger fish. That's fine, there's no doubt about it. But here, we are specifically targeting larger fish. And what we know now after these things being in the water for 4 or 5 years is they work. So think about that if you're going to build your own. All right? And this is something you can do with that depth finder. Again, you go over something that's down there, you need to know what it looks like. The 455 picks it up and shows you exactly what that big block with those big tubes looks like. There it is, sitting right on a ledge. Okay? And that's what it looks like in the 83-200. All right? So there's uses for both of them. We're advancing that look that you're getting at the bottom of the lake and what you're seeing on it. This picture, if you don't remember anything else I say today, do not ever forget it. Anybody know what that is? Even guys that were here yesterday, sorry, speak up. It is hydrilla. Okay? Please note that it is not topped out. This is what it looks like in 8330. That's what it looks like 455. And you can literally start to see some of the definitions of some of the branches and the leaves on here. Okay? But if you went across the top of it, if you didn't know, then you'd say, well, that's something down there, but I don't know what it is. All right? We're going to come back and we're going to talk about that one a little bit later. Depth. This is where we come to geek side. And I hear this all the time. How do I set my depth finder up where I can see thermocline? 2 ways. I'm an out-of-the-box guy. I'm running HDS equipment, but I've not touched a button. And there's your thermocline right there. All right? What you need to know is that is not what dictates how deep those fish can go. There's actually 3 layers. Okay? There's a surface layer in the thermocline, there's one in the middle, and there's this one. This is just like a hard bottom. There are no fish below that. There is no oxygen. None. 0. All right? And I did not adjust a single button to be able to see it. All right? So, what am I trying to figure out here? If you'll look, there's a scattering of fish in there, but they really seem to be concentrated in one little area. It's right there. That's that middle layer. This screenshot was actually taken off of Baden Lake. And everybody knows about the stripers in Baden Lake. Stripers are governed by temperature. They will choose temperature over oxygen content. So out in that open water, those fish are actually down in there, and the best way I can describe it, guys, is like you don't jumping in a swimming pool and holding your breath. You can go in down there where there's no oxygen and you can't breathe water for just so long that you got to come back up above that middle layer. And that's exactly what's going on with the majority of those stripers out there like that. They're down in that middle layer in 90-degree water temperature, but eventually they're going to have to come back up, or else they're going to die. It's that simple. And the majority of the fish otherwise are up above that point in the top, say, 15 feet of water in the open lake. That doesn't always happen that way. Here's a shallower water situation, and there's no longer a line drawn across there with the thermocline, okay? And some guys are like, well, how do I adjust it? No, don't touch a button. Those fish are telling you where that thermocline is. Right there. Notice there's not any below that point on average. Remember I told you I was going to show you a Christmas tree? There it is right there. 83,200. And there's fish trying to get down to that Christmas tree. They know it's there. And they want to be sitting in their lazy boy. But it's like wrapping a plastic bag around your head. They can only stay down there so long. So they got to come back up. So even if you don't have your set adjusted on that sensitivity where you can physically see that thermocline, you can see those fish right out of the box. And they're telling you where that thermocline is. All right? So back to the original slides. Are those catchable fish? For professionals going down the lake, is he going to stop and fish those fish? This is what it's going to look like when they're catchable. Back up on that object again. I got a lot of guys that have asked me about this. Birds, arcs, those are fish, okay? And that's an arc, but it's just not looking right at you, so it doesn't show up the same way, all right? So there's a couple of fish sitting there up above that physical feature, all right? Are those fish catchable? They're suspended. You can work at it, but it isn't likely that you're going to catch them. This arc right here that's sitting right on the bottom, okay? It may be slightly below that thermocline, but that's a catchable fish. It's holding there for a reason. The best example I've been able to come up with that is everybody's seen old cat laying out in the middle of the yard. Mockingbird's doing this. They're just dive bombing him. And that bird's good until that cat backs up against something, and then bird goes bye-bye. Same thing right here. Exact same thing. You're looking for fish that are associated with an object. And that's where structure comes from. Structure is a physical feature in the lake. It is not a tree. It is not a rock. It's not a stump. It's a physical feature, a point, a roadbed, a creek channel, something like that. It's geography. That's a better way of looking at it maybe, all right? My dad was a civil engineer, and he made maps, okay? So I learned how to read blueprints. And what you're looking at right here is you're looking at one of the lakes that I helped take care of. And what I've done is gone back in with a Sharpie, red Sharpie, and drawn in the water line. And just like you would do with no technology, I'm looking for anything that's inside that water line's fishable. And what I got there is a roadbed. Now what I can tell you is that blue dotted line is where the modern roadbed is. So I'm going to have some place to look. I can come up here at this roadbed, and now I got some place to start out here looking on my depth finder to try to find the one that's under the surface, right? Seems reasonable. That's what it looks like without any water on it. Okay? But how often do you get the chance to actually look at something like this when the water's down? Not often. So how do we solve that problem? Well, that's CMAP. This is a map I made with CMAP Genesis. You can take your depth finder, you can go into the Sonar page, and you can see log Sonar. So I've pressed one button to get to the Sonar page, one button to log Sonar, and then it's going to ask you, save it to the unit or save it to an SD card. Most of your units got SD cards on it. Choose SD card. How much? I'm using a 4 gig card. And with the standard settings in the unit, it tells me that on a 4 gig card, I got between 1 and 2 days of recording time. Somehow or another, I think you're going to have plenty of room on there, okay? You can put bigger cards up there. Up to about 32. They get a little sketchy above that point. But a 4 to 8 gig card's all you're going to need for a weekend of fishing, okay? That's what it looks like in a map once I've had it made. But how do we get that point? Well, what you do is when you're telling that thing to log, the right-hand side of this screen in the rainbow part of it is what the actual transducer is seeing. It records it just like a DVD, all right? You take that, you upload it to CMAP, and it creates that map. But this is the track that I actually took. It's where I ended it with this yellow dot. And with the buttons on the bottom of this thing, you can actually play it back and see everything you went over. Now, I'm not going to do it now, but I am going to show you a demo in a minute of something that's a little bit more realistic about where you won't get to. Same thing's true here. What if you don't have something like that original blueprint? You're just looking at like satellite photos. Guys do that all day long. But when you're zoomed in on there, you've got to play with it a little bit, okay? And you also got to think about what's really going on. Like right here with this little house on the bottom, it's obviously a driveway down here, but if you know what you're looking for, you've got a tree line, which is a hedgerow. And the reality of it is there's some disturbed dirt here, which I'm guessing probably means that there was a road bed out across here, okay? I'm just totally guessing. But with my CMAP unit, I can go in there and look and find out. Remember the feeding frenzy fish that I showed you in the ledges? That's that road bed that I showed you in those first 5 or 6 slides, okay? It's awesome stuff. You log on to CMAP Genesis, this is your opening page. To get started, go take a look at it. It's free. Go set you up an account, all right? You can send your stuff up there, it'll make you a map. You cannot download it back to your unit without a subscription, so there is a cost with that. But there's an awful lot of versatility to it. When it comes back, you're going to end up with options across that bar right there. My Maps, Uploads, Social Maps. First one you want to know about is Uploads. It's just a window. And you take your files off your unit, you copy them into this window, click Upload. That's the hardest way to do it. There's actually software you can download to your computer where it's 1 or 2 buttons, it's no big deal. Okay? But I'm going the longest route possible to still show you how simple it is to make these things work. Okay? So once you got them up there, then you get your map back. You get all these bunch of logs in there, all right? I've got hundreds of them. But you can click on this icon on the left, because all you've got is a number, right? With your number, you can click here and it pops out and it'll show you red squigglies on it where you did your log. Is that the sonar I want to look at? No. Close it, come to this one. You don't have to open every single file. You can preview them right here, okay? And find the one that you're after. All right, what are we doing with it? I told you we're making our statewide project where we're actually going in and building these golf courses for bass fishing. We've got them in 4 lakes. This is my shameless advertisement for the bass trail. The next one's coming soon here in Raleigh, in Lake Wheeler. It's our goal to put these things all over the state so that you can go out with everything I've told you today. Okay, you can take your kids, your grandson can go by himself, rent a boat, get in a kayak, whatever he wants to do, and learn everything. Now we're going to have this online where he can watch it and it walks him through it. He'll have a guided tutorial bass trip, all right, that will teach all of these different items, okay? But it's still a little bit more complicated if you really, really want to dig into that 3rd layer. Remember I said don't forget the hydrilla. Well, there it is, okay? And what I'm going to do is I've got it logged on to CMAP Genesis right now. Okay, and this is a trip that I did on Falls Lake several years ago because somebody told me that it had hydrilla in it. Okay, and without putting your own structure in or finding your own brush piles or anything else, everybody knows weeds are gold, right? They put money in your pocket, right? But what they told me is that they were in these cut-off ponds where there was a road bed over the top of it and you could not get to that pond. All right, and if you look in the back of this thing, there's an awful lot of brush, but you see these shadows in here that look kind of splotchy close to the bank that looks like there might be a whole band of vegetation that comes around there. Okay? Could be. Don't know nothing yet. Still doesn't tell us a whole lot. So what I did was, I went out there and I recorded this, and I want to show you a couple of 1 or 2 button features of what you can learn from what you've got here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to expand the little rainbow portion over here, the actual recording of the bottom. The first things are these little active boxes right up here at the top. If you just want to see what's going on with your map, you can remove that track. You can come over here. The default is 3-foot contours. Personally, I want to see something a little bit more accurate than that. There's 1-foot contours. Just click, click, click. That's simple. Okay? So we're going to come back over here. We're going to put this track on. I'm going to show you what I do. Now, I intentionally went out there and recorded this because I was looking for that hydrilla and that signature on that 83200, right? Watch the little yellow ball on the bottom right-hand side. These active buttons on the bottom of the rainbow side are like that DVR, like I told you. And when I press play, that line is going to go exactly where that yellow ball is at. And I'm looking for anything that looks like weeds. Wow, that looked important. Right there in that channel. Some kind of fuzzy stuff over there. It's coming back. Ooh. That looked real good, didn't it? All right. Now, while that's kind of running, what I've learned over time is those things, they fill up with sediment, but the more we've built out there, the faster the water flows off, and it blows these things back out. It digs the trough back out over time when you get these big flooding rains. So you get the original creek channel and anything on the back side of it. All right, so all the way out to there, it looked like we had some fuzzy stuff, and I'm going to stop it. All right, so let's just say you're in there and you're studying, you feel pretty good about what you saw. All right, but you want to go back and look at something. You don't have to go back through all that track. You can just put your pointer right there on the line, click it, and boom, you're back right there. And look, all the way out there, that far off that culvert, there's weeds. Well, are they any further out? Let's see. I don't know, it's a little questionable. And you'll notice they have a tendency to grow on the edges. Okay, looks like there might actually be a little bit out there. But how do you know? This is dated April 20th. You think the hydrilla's topped out? No. August, September, right? All right, so how do you know? Back inside these layers, you have some opportunities. You got contours only, which is what you're looking at right now. All right? But you also have this little strange thing that says vegetation. All right? And what that does is the algorithm in the mapping program can actually tell you bottom contour hardness and a lot of different things like that. But if you want to check and get an idea whether that is actually vegetation or not, boom, it showed up green. That mapping program says that what you saw that looked like weeds is very likely weeds. All right, that's simple. 2-3 clicks out of the menu. It's not a big deal, and most of the guys don't have any idea it's there. That's a 22-pound bag of fish. I enjoyed that check, and that's how hard I had to work for it, right there. We've spent 15-20 minutes talking about the entire thing, and most guys just say, all I'm interested in is the depth. I'm sorry. It will do a lot more for you. There are a lot of other things that the CMAP and the actual units will do. They're running live now where you can actually build these maps on there. It's awesome technology. It's great, great, great stuff, okay? But again, I'm an out-of-the-box guy. I want to talk to guys that are interested in it working for them, not you working for it, all right? And that's what we wanted to kind of get through with this talk, all right? Questions? And then we'll go in and we'll actually do some live ones.
How fast are you going?
You know, that's a really, really great question, and I can answer that. I'm going to put the contours back up so the red lines are a little more visible. And I'm going to zoom it in one more step. If you'll notice, those lines are kind of jagged. I'm actually fishing. Okay? That's how slow I'm going. Do you have to? No. Depending on what you're actually looking for up to 12 miles an hour, you can map. Okay? It'll give you bottom contours. But if you want vegetation, you got to go slower. And in your mapping program, it tells you what those speeds are. So, you know, it's one of those things. What if you go over it? Real question mark. I've made some maps over very, very long runs, and I've eased over 11, 12 miles an hour in there, and my entire run's no good. Okay? So, you just have to be careful with it. Yes, sir?
What were the two buttons or commands in your unit that you needed to push to get started with the mapping?
You start in the Sonar menu, log Sonar, and then it's going to ask you to the unit or to a chip, to a SD card, and you just pick which one and go, and then it starts logging. The one thing that I got to warn you about on this, and it's really, really, really important, whatever you do, okay, turn it off before you get back on plane, and you're going to forget. I do. But what happens is when you upload that thing, it's got this one big long strike where you take off down the lake, and it messes up your entire map. Okay, so try to kind of remain cognizant of it, turn it off before you take off, all right? Messes up your map. You might have to come back and do it again. But it's two buttons. Now, some of the newer units, it may have active buttons that you can set and set one button. I don't know. Everything that you've seen in this PowerPoint was done with Gen 1, Gen 2 technology. I'm running Gen 3 now. I'll upgrade pretty soon. It's still all the same logic. Okay, that's one of the great things about it. Huh?
Like an Elite 5.
It's my understanding from the guys, and I've talked to a couple of them out here, it's still the same menu sequence. You get to the Sonar menu, log Sonar. Yeah. It may be a little bit different language or something like that, record Sonar or something like that, but yeah, it's the same general thing. Give me a lake, any lake. Randleman. Okay, and again, I'm going to step through them exactly like I told you. Okay? I'm going to look at the icon on the left, see if there's something there that I feel like we need to look at. I'm not going to hold anything back from you. I'm just not going to make you look at something boring that doesn't have any value. Yeah, let's look at that. That's a good one. View trip. Okay. What we'll do is we'll look at this, take the track off. Okay. Now, just because I know exactly what I'm looking at, I'm going down a deep bank. All right. Do you remember me talking about that dead end road and that hedgerow and the disturbed soil? That's your road bed. You saw it in the 83-200. That's what it looks like in a map. Now, if you were looking at that, would you think, well, that's a road bed? Probably not, right? Okay. But there's a telltale little sign here. One, looks like you got a little pool on the back side of here. And I'll put the track back on so you can see. It got back there. I was in shallow water. And the same thing back here. I went all the way in the bank. All right? But here's what you're looking for. Track off. See if you can see the roadbed. There it is right there. See where the cursor is? What you've got is it runs fairly close to the bank right here. You've got this little nubby right here where it starts down into deep water, but I've actually got a satellite photo of this somewhere. I'm not going to try to dig it out. But they used this as a retention pond when they were building the lake. And the roadbed runs right across the dam of the lake. Here, it's running out on a flat, but you can still see that even though the map contours didn't pick it up, you go back and review this in the evening, you find your roadbed. As a matter of fact, looks like it's got some pretty crunchy rocks right in there. We'll keep it running. Kind of running up on dry land there because there's a natural point. Is that your roadbed again? See how it's kind of got that flat spot out there? Does that line up with what I told you? Yep. See the cursor? So sometimes it's not quite as simple as just running that map. You've got to come back and kind of review these things to see subtle little differences. Is that your roadbed? Boom. It'll come back out. Do you see it? You can see it in your rainbow charts, but you can't see it in the actual CMAP map that it made. That's why you review them. Oops, now you got two sides. That's the back side that drops off into the pond. It's all kinds of telling on itself now. See what it happens? It does it again. Two sides to that roadbed out there. Pretty cool, huh? All right. So question, how many guys are going to go back and take a shot at their CMAP program now? Yeah, we're going to see some more hands in the air. All right. Thank you very, very much. I appreciate you guys being here. Like I said, one of the most gratifying things I see today is return faces. We're going to have this on
Southern Outdoors Fishing.
Southern Outdoors Fishing. It's a YouTube channel?
Yes.
Southern Outdoors Fishing. It's going to be filmed. You can show it to your friends. You can share it. I'm William Frazier. The easiest way to get in touch with me is on Facebook. I've got cards outside that have got my email address on it. And I really do. I mean, I've already had 2 or 3 invitations to speak to bass clubs, striper clubs. I'll do everything I can to get to you and come talk to you if you got a group you want to talk to. Lowrance, appreciate you, and I appreciate you. Thank you, guys.